Okay, good evening, everyone. My name's Steve Curran. I'm a councillor in Zion Ward in Brentford, and I'm leader of the council. So welcome to this cabinet meeting this evening. All of my cabinet colleagues are here, and we're being supported by various officers from the chief exec and others, and we have IT support as well. Although you won't be able to see them, I may be in discussion with them if something goes wrong. Or for any other reason, so I'll let you know if that happens. So we've got a pretty full agenda. We've also got an addendum to the agenda, which is the agenda item now 13.1, and online. Hopefully, it'll be pages 2 to 14 as the agenda, as the addendum, and it's referenced the overview and scrutiny committee meeting of the 30th of November. But so we're going to take that first. But before we do that, you'll see that cabinet colleagues have got their cameras off. That's just to make it easier, and it helps the technology. So you will see them when they speak, and you will of course hear them. So if everyone can keep themselves on mute and the camera off unless they're speaking, that would be really helpful. I'm going to take, and I should also add that this meeting is being convened under the government's COVID legislation that allows council meetings to be held remotely. So I would take this opportunity to welcome members of the public. I hope you enjoy the meeting. So we'll kick off with apologies of absence and declarations of interest. I've not been notified of any apologies. Are there any declarations of interest anyone would like to raise? Cabinet colleagues.
Yes, Leader. Councillor Lily Barther, Deputy Leader of the Council. I've just got to raise a declaration.
Could you wait for the... Sorry, start again. You've got to wait for the red border to come around. Sorry,
I forgot. Councillor Lily Barther, Deputy Leader of the Council. Addenda item 8. I received some communication from a resident regarding that item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other declarations of interest from anyone? If you could indicate. Tom.
Yeah, same as Lily. Thank you for jogging my memory, Lily. I also received some communication on that same item.
Tom, could you just say who you are? So
apologies. I'm Councillor Tom Bruce. I'm Cabinet Member for Education and Children's Services.
Thank you. Any other one? Any other declarations of interest? Councillor Rajawat.
Thanks, Leader. I think we should all declare that we've received correspondence on the addendum report over the period of time prior to the 30th of November meeting and prior to tonight's meeting as well.
Okay. Thanks for that, everyone, and thanks for that reminder, Councillor Rajawat. So we've all had numerous emails and other correspondence and conversations actually with people about the overview and scrutiny report. So on that note then, I will ask Councillor Khalid Malik to present his report. Thank you very much, Councillor Malik.
Leader, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity today to present my report. Is there any time limit to present my report, or are you a bit flexible? Because a recommendation is probably take more than 5 minutes.
Well, you've got 5 minutes, so you've got 5 minutes.
So probably it would be helpful if I have a brief note rather than full going through the recommendation, which you already received. That would be probably more appropriate.
Yeah, that would be very helpful, Councillor Malik. Very helpful.
Thank you, Leader. So my brief note is, which probably conclude that recommendation in that my brief note is, I'll just go through with this. Chair, as you aware that resident, hundreds and thousands of residents, they have signed a petition objecting the low traffic neighborhood, as you are aware, and particularly in the way in which the council introduced them without educated and prior consultation. That's what they were seeking some help. The call-in we heard last week was therefore probably one of the most important that overview scrutiny has ever had, which I'm not aware, I haven't seen anyone like this before. And after several hours of questioning and serious consideration of all the issue relating to your decisions at the October cabinet, we reached the conclusion that you should reconsider in particular, but in place a process of consultation as part of your planned review of phase 1 and 2 schemes, and to consult on phase 3 scheme before they are implemented. To do otherwise would be to ignore the voices of those who have been provoked to protest, and they were protesting. I personally have received hundreds and hundreds of email protesting that against the decision. So may irreparable harm to the council ability to introduce sensible measures to encourage active and sustainable travel and further undermine the council reputation. So my in conclusion, my as you have you read the recommendation, it says clearly what the overview scrutiny has recommended. I will urge the cabinet to reconsider all the recommendation which the overview and scrutiny, after long questioning, they have recommended. So my personal, as the overview and scrutiny chair, it's my duty to ask and to reconsider those decisions which was made. That's my brief note, and probably is within the time which you have asked me to conclude, and that's I need help the cabinet member to reconsider that decision. Thank you very much, leader and chair. Appreciate your time which you have given me.
Okay. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, Councillor Malik. I do appreciate you coming to the cabinet meeting this evening. I wanted to place on record my thanks to you and the committee for their hard work in producing this report. And I'd like to thank the councillors, Councillor Eason and Councillor Todd, and the members who signed the call-in for their contribution to the call-in process, and for enabling us to have the opportunity to discuss the report, not this report, sorry, to discuss the original cabinet report informally through the process for call-in, and then the opportunity last week over many hours to go through the detail of the cabinet report. So thank you very much. And if you could pass my thanks on to the committee members, I'll be most grateful. Thank you. Right, I'd like to now, Councillor Malik, do you want to say something else?
I just want to say thank you, leader, for your comments. You just now have mentioned about the overview and scrutiny, and thank you for listening to me, especially all the cabinet member who were decision maker on that, and they have attended overview and scrutiny committee. It was the opportunity for overview and scrutiny committee to go through all the process which was in place. And I think, as you have seen, we've gone rigorously the overview and scrutiny committee, and they followed the process, and they've done everything what they could, and they produced the recommendation before you, and it's all down to leader yourself and all the cabinet to reconsider. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Okay, I would thank you, Councillor Malik. I'd ask Councillor Khan to respond to the report, and then I'll ask other members to come in after that. Councillor Khan.
Thank you very much, Leader, for the opportunity. And I'll just reiterate what you said with reference to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So my personal thanks as well. It's never an easy task to go through from both sides, and yes, 7.5 hours was a good opportunity for that to take place. Look, I've always been consistent in my views, in that I want to hear from all the voices, and always in these situations the loudest voices are there, but they're not the only voices as well for this street space trial that's going on as well. The interim and the final review processes that were outlined in the cabinet paper, they did indicate kind of a wide range of stakeholders that we would be engaging with to understand the impact of the trials, and many of them were also included as well, and they were from the businesses, specifically from those residents who were protected with the characteristics kind of like under the Equalities Act. And then just moving on from that, I mean, there will be some further announcements of engagement sessions that I will make tomorrow. And as the conclusion of the interim reviews that are being undertaken by an independent consultant, who will then bring that all together for us to move forward as well. And you know, we have already begun to put in place an equalities design group. I mean, I think that's really key as well. It's an equalities design group that's there to support the interim and the final review process based on really good best practices, and that is in line with our engagement plan as well. And then during that process, we'll be exploring the opportunities to hear from actually young people as well in this engagement process, and it's all going to start in the new year, held in January. So please definitely get get in tune with that as well. And residents in the area where the street space schemes will be in place, we will be writing to all the residents with the interim review that is available, and that will come through as well. And then there'll be some further communications as well about how the feedback will be provided ahead of the final review process. And then this will then include the provisions of people being able to send us your feedback, but also we'll be providing a postal address, so those people who don't have access to the online tools as well. Now, phase 3 was discussed, and it was elaborated in quite a lot of detail, and I'll explain again what I said then as well, that the program hasn't yet started, and the report did seek to, in principle, to get an agreement so that the officers could then start to undertake the necessary data collection at that point. And then a full consultation will then play out as to how this will all be developed with a variety of different engagement techniques that we will be using. And cabinet members, you know, all the councillors will be consulted, as I have repeatedly said, and their views will all be taken into account during this process and as we share the plan in due course. So, Leader, that's what I wanted to say in response to Councillor Malik Malik's report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. Councillor Dunn, I know you wanted to respond.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. Yes, just to introduce myself, I'm Councillor Catherine Dunn, Cabinet Member for Communities and the Climate Emergency. I agree with everything that Hanifa said, but I just wanted to add something. I'd like us to reflect on the fact that this year public health has been very much to the forefront of everyone's minds for obvious reasons. It's also a year in which we consulted on and published our Climate Emergency Action Plan. More and more, we are understanding that drastic measures are needed in order to safeguard our future health and our environment. And the Street Space programme is very much in line with the Council's objectives to improve air quality, reduce carbon emissions, and to promote active, healthy travel. That said, we have heard residents say that they want to be engaged more, they want to be engaged better on changes that are to be made. And we do take this on board. I have a paper coming up about engagement. I've also started having some very encouraging initial conversations with our comms team, our engagement and consultation teams, and also with our climate and clean air community reference group as to what those future engagements could look like. So that's all I had to add, Leader. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Catherine. That's helpful. Councillor Lambert, I know you wanted to speak as well.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Guy Lambert, I'm the lead member for Waste and Recycling, Highways and the Trading Companies, and a member for Brentford. Yeah, I don't have a lot to add to the excellent comments made by my colleagues. Just to say that the phase 1 and 2 part of this thing, and therefore the subject of the first recommendations, that was done in a hurry, and that's not ideal. We would very much like to consult more before putting them in, but it was government policy to do it quickly. It was urgent. We agreed it was urgent, and we did it urgently, and we did it within weeks, as the Minister, Secretary of State, asked us to do. And we will review all of those schemes in the interim and final reviews, and where some of them won't be right, and we will take the necessary action. Phase 3, as Councillor Khan said, hasn't started yet. Many of the recommendations that are made in this report were what we were going to do anyway, but some of the things in the report I think are very helpful in terms of focusing us on some of the things that, you know, perhaps we hadn't taken into account as well as we might have done. What's not so much in the report, and I think is very important, is business. We must consult with business as well as these things go on, because we really don't want to damage them. We want to help them. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Lambert. Are there any other councillors who'd like to say anything? Remember, we haven't got the hands up function on Teams, so you just have to shout or wave or put your camera on. No? No one coming back. Okay, well, thanks, as I say, thanks, Councillor Malik, from Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny. Thanks for the 3 councillors who just responded to the report. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, and as Guy has just mentioned, we were asked to ensure that we put these measures in quickly. That was the government asked us to do that, and we, alongside many other London boroughs, many boroughs right across the country, have done that. And there has been a reaction to that, because people, and we prefer to have a proper consultation. That wasn't possible if we were to move at pace and at speed. So as Councillor Lambert also says, we will learn the lessons, and it's absolutely, I think, incumbent on Cabinet and the Council to ensure that we note the recommendations in the report, and that you'll find them on page 2 of the agenda item 13A. Remember, this is an addendum, and we note agenda item 2 in the report. Sorry, not the agenda item, point 2 in the report. But from what I'm hearing today, and from what's been said, I believe that the report of the dated 20th of October stands in its entirety, but, and this is a big but, we will absolutely take on board the points raised in the Overview and Scrutiny report. It is thorough. I've been on a few Overview and Scrutiny reports to discuss reports, and it's the longest one I've been on, so it did have a very good airing, and I thought the Overview and Scrutiny Committee got their points across very well, and they've been taken on board. So, as also been mentioned, 3.5 of the original report was only asking permission in principle to go out and consult in depth and even consult on the consultation itself. So how do we consult with residents, with businesses, with community groups on how we take these schemes forward? So all the points made by the overview and scrutiny are well made, but I'm proposing that the original decision, it stands, but we do take note of the report, and we'll consider seriously all of the recommendations within the overview and scrutiny report. So that's what I'm proposing. Unless anyone objects, you need to let me know. Otherwise, I'll assume that you're all in favour. So just give people some time. So if you put your camera on, is probably the quickest way that I'll know that you don't agree. So I've got no indication yet that anyone's disagreeing. So that decision is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Okay, we're now going to move on to agenda item 7. If Councillor Purwal is here on the call. Councillor Purwal, are you here? Councillor Rajawat.
Thank you very much, Chair. In the absence of Councillor Purwal, I'll formally move the report, the audit annual report. It's good practice for the audit committee to provide a report to Cabinet, and they've been doing a lot of work over the last year. And you'll note in the report that they are of the belief that our systems are robust and we've got good governance in place, which is always pleasing to see. So in moving the report, I'll just place on record my thanks to Councillor Purwal and the committee, as well as the officers that support the committee as well. Thanks, Leader.
Thanks very much, Councillor Rajawat. So I would like to formally second the report and again add my thanks to Councillor Purwal as Chair of the Audit and Governance Committee, and thank them for the excellent work they do. The one thing that one of the things that keeps me awake as leader at night is the money side, of course, and I know I've got some very good people looking after the purse string. So I'm grateful to the Audit Committee, and I'm grateful to Councillor Rajawat and to Clive Palferman for the work they do on supporting us, ensuring that we spend the Hounslow pound wisely. I'm indebted to them. So, and again, if anyone wants to say anything, please put your camera on. If not, I'm assuming that everyone is in favour of the report. If anyone is against, can you put your camera on and let me know? Okay, I've got no indications that anyone's objecting to the report, so that's now carried. We'll now go back to the agenda in order, and we're going to agenda item 3, which is being presented by Councillor Dunn.
Yeah, thank you. So this report is about maximising the role of the voluntary, community and social enterprise sector in helping us to build a resilient community as we move into the next phase of our borough's recovery from COVID-19. So Cabinet is asked to note the findings and recommendation of a VCSE sector review. We commissioned this in July, commissioned the organisation Rocket Science to carry out this review to help us to understand and to inform the development of the community solutions approach, which is how the council is working with its voluntary and other sector partners to deliver help and solutions to our communities in need. And this was part of the Borough Recovery Plan. The review focused on a few things. So firstly, understanding the scale, scope and capacity of our voluntary sector organisations that have been delivering services across the borough. Also looking at the council's strategic relationship with that sector, and then looking how we can maximise the capacity, reach and impact of the sector in the borough. So the review has resulted in a set of clear recommendations and actions. This has implications for service areas across the council, and these are set out in the report and also in the appendices to the report, which are all available online. So our success in delivering these recommendations and the outcomes will require a significant culture shift, will require council buy-in from every section of the council and support from all levels within the organisation. So I would like to move and recommend this report to my Cabinet colleagues. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Catherine. I'm happy to second the report, but before I do, I'll just say a few words and ask Councillor Khan who'd like to say with. As I say, I think it's a very good report. It spells out clearly what we need to do to encourage support and have a sustainable voluntary sector within the borough. And I think the voluntary sector has come to the fore during the COVID pandemic. It's demonstrated its worth 10 times over, and it's uniquely placed to support the council in delivering the services and the change we need to do. So I'm delighted to see the report and look forward to all of the actions that are proposed coming to fruition. Thank you very much. So I have formally seconded the report. Councillor Khan.
Thank you very much, Leader, for the opportunity. I will be very, very brief. I just wanted to say that I 100% welcome this report, and I know the amount of work that officers have been doing with this, especially when it comes to the volunteering and the community aspect. I mean, we know that there's probably around 21 million volunteers that at least once a year they do some sort of voluntary, which is brilliant. And also that kind of contributes quite a lot of money to our UK economy, around 24 million. Now, the benefits that are acquired through the volunteering and enabling our communities to do that this is what this report is doing. It's enabling for our residents of London Borough of Hounslow to engage themselves with a process that allows them to be really in tune with our community. So it's really, really important for that. And there's just one thing I wanted to mention in relation to this, and thank God we've never had this kind of stuff that goes on in our borough. We know that young lad that was picked on, the young Sikh boy that was picked on, was beaten up by two young lads just because he was slightly different, looked a bit different and wearing a turban. But we in our London Borough of Hounslow, we have actually embraced the different types of communities that we have in our borough, and that's a great credit to us. And you know, we are able to stick to our true values. It doesn't matter which background you're from. And this is the thing I love about this report, that the officers and through Catherine's leadership and through parts of the One Hounslow project is what that we're harnessing. So yeah, I fully recommend this. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Bath.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I fully support the report and the recommendations and the action plan. Like, as you quite clearly said, obviously we saw a lot of the voluntary sector and small groups in Hounslow come to the forefront in terms of the COVID delivery. I think for me, this is a really important piece of work, because I think it's hugely important that we actually understand the communities that have helped us to support our recovery and how we can support them. Because, as you quite rightly said, I think, you know, we've tended to take them for granted in the past, and I think I'm hoping that that we will obviously not take them for granted, but understand them and support them so that they can become more resilient, because quite often we do see quite a number of small groups who are relatively fragile and probably not hugely funded. But if we can support them, we can enable them to be more resilient and hopefully help them to attract more funding and become more sustainable, which I think is going to be really, really important moving forward. So well done to the Cabinet member, and well done to all the people, all the officers who showed a lot of enthusiasm and passion in actually bringing this forward. And I think it's really important. I'm really glad that we are really recognising the huge number of community groups and volunteer sector groups that exist, often on a shoestring budget, and provide a huge amount of work for us, really good value as well. So well done. I'm a bit biased because I work for a voluntary sector group, but not in the borough, so I don't have to declare an interest there. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bath. Does anyone else want to say anything? If not, I'm assuming that everyone's in favour of to note the report, unless there's anyone against. So if you are against or got any questions, please can you put your camera on? If not, I'll assume that everyone's in support, in favour of the report and its recommendations. Okay, no one's come back to me, so we move on to, that's carried unanimously, so we're going to move on to agenda item 4, which is Councillor Dunt again. Catherine.
Yeah, so this is another piece of work that came out of the Community Recovery Board that I chaired, and this was the review, and now we have an implementation plan on community engagement. So this is published here, our community engagement plan, One Hounslow, Many Voices, which obviously ties into many of the themes that are coming up tonight. This plan sets out a process by which we can change, deepen our engagement with our communities. Some of this started already during the pandemic, and we really wanted to take that opportunity to actually continue that work and not just let things go back to how they were. It involves a lot of listening, taking stock, reflecting, and working with our residents to produce and put in place engagement mechanisms. We want to know how people want to be engaged, what's the easiest way for them to be engaged, how we can come and speak to people where they are, if that's easier for them, how to embrace technology, as we have started to do quite a bit this year, and how to make sure that we don't miss out people who are not able to embrace that technology. So I would encourage everyone to read the plan. It's, as been said many times, it's the start of a conversation, and there's lots still to be developed, and hopefully we can do that together. I'm asking Cabinet to agree the plan, which is Appendix A, also to agree the allocation of £60,000 for additional resources to be able to progress the plan up to March next year, and then to note the findings of the review, which obviously fed into this plan and the final report. And just to say that I will come back to Cabinet next year with a fully developed proposal for a new council-wide approach to consultation and engagement. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Catherine. I'd like to second the report. Would any other Cabinet members like to say anything? Councillor Lambert.
Yes, I'd just like to say I spent quite a long time today reading through this very lengthy and comprehensive report, which I think is really fantastic. It's very challenging for councillors, and as well as for council officers, and we need to embrace it and take it on board and up our game to the next level. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Atherton.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in agreement with Councillor Lambert. It's a brilliant report and a really great piece of work that was carried out by Claire's. And there's one question that was asked was, what does good community engagement look like? And I really liked the response that was about everyone having the opportunity to really play their part in the community, and for the community voice to be really built and for it to be influential. So a challenge to us is that we can really amplify the community voice and really help to make sure that people who are already very active in the community are able to have influence. And it's really recognising that it's about sharing power and partnering and working together, and not about sort of the council like asking and telling, but really it's really sort of looking at co-design and things like that. And that's exactly what our principles are at the Labour Council. So it's just really good that it's reinforcing everything that we stand for, and I'm really looking forward to seeing some really great outcomes.
Thanks very much, Councillor Atherton. Any other Cabinet members like to say anything? Questions? Okay. I therefore, Catherine's already said, it's to agree items 1 and 2 in the details of recommendation on page 40, and to note items 3 and 4. I'm assuming everyone's in favour unless they say otherwise. Okay, I've no indication that anyone's against, so that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Catherine. Okay, we now move on to agenda item 5, which is Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to point out there's a bit of a clerical error on this. I am not the lead member for customer services and corporate performance. I'm still the lead member for recycling and waste, highways and trading companies. So other than that, I commend the report. First of all, Cabinet is asked to note the performance of the trading companies in Q2. The performance has been very strong. They've met the vast majority of their KPIs. They've dealt with the difficulty of the coronavirus without any diminution in the service offered. The Cabinet is also asked to agree to revised management board arrangements for the company, and this is the culmination of some work that we've been doing in rationalising how the company is organised, so that there is a holding company which includes what was previously the separate Koalo, the operational companies being Koalo and Recycle 360 and Greenspace 360 are brought together in one subgroup, and the property businesses being Investment 360 and Development 360 are another subgroup, and of course Leisure, which is distinct from the other companies because it's not for profit, and obviously a new addition to the group is held separately. So that, I think that represents a significant improvement in how we govern these companies and how they get some synergy between what they do, because they do quite a lot of things in common. The second thing is to note the summarised reserved matters arrangements as outlined in paragraph 312. This is really about how we as a council and how we as a cabinet and how we as commissioning cabinet members will be dealing with the companies going forward, and it's a much more robust approach to how we'll work with them. Finally, just to note that two activities have transferred into the Lambton companies over the last few months. First of all, the cleaning activities from the council were moved into Koalo back in September, and of course the leisure centres, not the whole of leisure, because the public halls have gone back into the council, but the leisure centres have moved into Koalo, into Koalo. No, not into Koalo, into Lambton Leisure, which is a separate operation, and that the transfer has gone very smoothly. The staff are very motivated. The only problem is that we've got some wonky boilers that we've inherited from the previous Guardian that we're busily working to get going. But some of the centres are opening even as we speak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. I'm going to second the report now, but I'm going to say a few words after Councillor Chowdhury and Gurwell. So, Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to go first?
Thank you, Leader. I'm just going to quickly say a couple of words about Green Space 360s. I've read the performance report, and it has been great. From seeing from parks, myself visiting outside in the parks and talking to our residents as well, it's been great. If we talk about the parks, or we talk about the cemeteries or playgrounds, it has been a great performance from Green Space 360s, and all the staff has been working hard, and I'd just like to say well done to everyone involved, and our team from parks to all the cemeteries local with the ground maintenance. They have been working extremely hard, and I think it's really nice to see in the report. And from leisure centres, like Councillor Lambert has said, it's really nice to see leisure centres and public halls in-house, and we're looking forward to opening the leisure centres very soon. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor. We move now on to Councillor Pitton-Gurwell.
Thank you, Leader. Very quick comment on cleaning services. Like I said, good report, Guy. And I met Jamie Sparks, who's the operation managers for Koalo. Him and his team are doing a fantastic job helping keep people safe under these challenging circumstances. His staff's very happy, and they're all getting paid London wages. The transition from the previous contract to Koalo has been seamless. And I would like to thank everyone who's involved for their hard work. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks very much, Councillor Gurwell. So thanks, Councillor Gurwell and Chowdhury, for their positive comments. I was going to say something positive as well. A couple of things, really. It's been a very difficult 9 months or so. It's probably 10 months now, isn't it, since the outbreak of the pandemic, and lots of our staff in our companies have carried on working throughout, right through that really hot summer. Our waste and refuse and recycling teams are out every day. As Guy said, there was no dip-in service. That they carried on them and delivered a fantastic service, not only to us as a council, but more importantly to the residents and businesses. So I'm very proud of them. And then we've got the Fusion staff who transferred, I think, on the 1st of November, who've been under a cloud for months and months and months. Huge pressure from residents who quite rightly wanted to go back to the leisure centres, the gyms, and the community halls as soon as they can or could. Yet they've stuck with us. I'm delighted that they transferred either back into the council directly or into our company. It means that they're all now being paid the London living wage, and that's really important to us as a Labour council. Their terms and conditions will be better, and hopefully we will see a turnaround in the culture of leisure services, as we did with libraries and parks when we brought those back. So they're definitely part of the Hounslow family now, and I'm sure the residents, as I say, and businesses will reap the rewards in the coming weeks and months. So I'm delighted to second the report, and we're asked to note, agree, note and note on page 115. So unless there's anyone objecting, can you put, if you are, can you put your camera on? Or have any further questions or comments? If not, I will declare that that is a unanimous vote in favour of the report. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Councillor Rajawat is quick off the blocks and he's waiting to get going on the next agenda item, which is agenda item 6, which is the financial monitoring report. Councillor Rajawat, thank you.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yeah, I'm eager. This is a regular monitoring report that Cabinet receives. Not going to say too much on it as I move it, but Cabinet will note as you're looking through the report that we are now starting to see some of the spend that we incurred as a result of COVID starting to come through. I suppose the reassuring thing for us is we kind of predicted that this was the way it was going to go, and it just means we've got to be very, very careful in the new year, looking at the impact of COVID going forward. Cabinet will note table 5.1 has the departmental spend figures. We're not going to shy away from the fact that there are some pressures that exist there, and we continue to work to mitigate those and lobby where lobbying is needed on some of the demand-led pressures. Table 5.2 lists the comparison between some of those departmental pressures that I just described alongside pressures as a result of COVID, and we're monitoring those very, very closely going into the new year. Just a little tidbit, Cabinet will be aware that the Chancellor made his comprehensive spending review. To be honest, I didn't see very much that was of interest, but of course, no one would have missed the fact that you know, the CSR was only for 1 year, and perhaps the most interesting thing that Cabinet will note is that the Chancellor has agreed that councils can raise council tax by up to 5% without needing local referenda. I suppose the subtext to that for me, as I look at it, is I'm increasingly becoming aware and of the view that when the government said do what it takes and we'll reimburse you in full, actually that meant do what it takes, and you'll be able to raise the money from local people, and that's a £1 billion hit up and down the country to local authorities that will get passed on to residents. So we'll carry on monitoring that. But apart from that, Leader, I move the report and move the recommendations in particular from G to Y.
Thank you for that. I'd like to second the report. I'll come to Councillor Bruce and Chowdhury in a moment, but before I do, I just wanted to pick up on the point you've just said, made rather, Councillor Rajawat, regarding the government allowing us to charge more council tax up to 5% without a referendum. I think that's disgraceful. It shouldn't be a council tax now. I don't think it is. It's a COVID tax. You're quite right. The government said do whatever it takes and we will give you the money to help you deliver services and deal with the pandemic. We've done that and more. Our residents and businesses have done that and more. And now that our residents will be penalised because the government will not fund us fully for the cost of dealing with the pandemic. So having to put up council tax at this time is very difficult. But let's call it what it is. Let's call this increase in council tax what it really is, which is a COVID tax. So I obviously would like to thank Councillor Rajawat and his team, Clive and his officers, for all the work they've done. We are a prudent council. We have been since we got back in power in 2010. That's why we got re-elected in 2014 and 2018, because we manage the money well. We look after the Hounslow pound, and I'm delighted to second the report. Councillor Bruce.
Thank you very much, Leader. I want to echo what you said about thanking Councillor Rajwat, Clive and the team for another very good report. It's great to see the spend that is there. Yes, there are lots of very great challenges that we face, and Councillor Rajwat has outlined those, but certainly the G to Y that he mentioned are some very exciting projects, and I think that needs to be noted, that while with all these issues that are going on, we still are moving forward. This council is still moving forward, putting in things for the betterment of its residents. I'd like to point out the 5.19 or 5.20, which is just about the schools budget, which is a concerning element that's coming up, and I've mentioned it a couple of times, I think, in Borough Council, maybe once or twice even in a cabinet meeting about a monitoring report. We are getting, and all councils, almost all councils across the country, are getting into positions where they're in deficit with their reserve budget, which seems for any accountants or economists out there, seems an incredible position to be in, but that is what the government are allowing all councils to do, and many councils, almost all councils, are doing that because of the difficulty in spend, particularly in the high needs block, which deals with children with special educational needs and disability. The demand is going up exponentially. I mean, I know not really exponentially, but it seems to be year on year. The demand is increasing, not just in Hounslow but across the country. The spend is increasing, therefore, but the money being given by government to schools and to us isn't matching that. Therefore, we are allowed to hold this strange deficit budget. Where this is going to go in the future, I don't know, but we continue to put pressure on the government about this, and particularly the DfE, because it's not a good position for any of us and the country as a whole to be in. Once again, thank you very much, Shantanu, for all your work.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Samir Chowdhury.
Thank you, Leader. Just quickly, I just wanted to say that I'm pleased to see the further investment into our public halls and leisure centres. As we know, we've brought the public halls and leisure centres back into the Hounslow family and Lambton Leisures, so that we could improve our residents' experience when they use our centres and public halls. And I'm pleased to see the start of the investment for these improvement community facilities, which I think it's really, really important. And more of our facilities, as I've said previously, will open in the coming days and week as the investment into our facilities will continue. And at the same point, I just would like to say thank you very much and well done to Councillor Rajwat and our finance team for all their hard work they have done for everything within this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Pritagawa.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Shan and Clive, for your hard work. It's a good report, and I'm really happy that we're finally doing something on Kingsley Road. We as a ward council working on this road for the last over 2 years. Road is in really bad state, and this is the main entrance for the town centre and the bus station. And finally, it's been resurfaced and looks beautiful. So I would like to thank all the officers for their hard work, especially for Victoria Lawrence as well. Thank you, Leader. I'll support the report.
Thank you, Councillor Goodwell, for the words of support. So I've already seconded the report. So we're asked to note or approve recommendations, etc., on page 48, 49, and 50. Are there anyone's got any further questions, or is anyone objecting to the report? If not, no, can't see any hands, or sorry, cameras coming on. So that's unanimous, all in favour of that report. Thank you very much. Okay, so now it comes on to agenda item 8, which is the It's for me, actually, a report for me. So it's the conservation area appraisal, proposed adoptions and consultation. So normally we would have, I think members would expect some correspondence via email or at our public meetings, especially our area forums on the work that we've been doing on conservation areas. But I'm very pleased to say that the comments I had have been very complimentary. So I would really like to thank the officers who worked so hard on this report and done a fantastic job in consultations with residents, with community groups and businesses. It's something to really be proud of. So I can't say any more on that, really, that I'm just delighted that the report's here and we're moving things on, because it's important, really important to lots of people in the borough. So I'm going to move the report and I'll ask Councillor Bath to second it if she would like.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'd be delighted to second the report, and I too have had very positive correspondence and feedback from residents, which is really good and absolutely good way forward, and delighted to support the report. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bath. Does anyone else like to say anything? No? Okay, well, in that case, I'm assuming everyone's in favour of the report. If you're not, or I've got any further questions, please could you indicate by putting your camera on? No indication of that, so that is unanimously agreed. Thank you. Sorry, I should mention the recommendations are on page 188 and 189. Thank you very much. Just for members of the public, Councillor Adderton has to leave. She had a prior engagement, so she's leaving now, but that doesn't mean that the council cabinet meeting cannot carry on doing its business. So thank you, Councillor Adderton, for being here for this amount of time. I know you're very busy at the moment. So the quorum number is 5, so we're well within the rules to carry on with the meeting, even though we've lost one cabinet member. Okay, so we're now moving on to, just get my agenda back. Agenda item 9, which is Councillor Bath. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Leader. So the report that you have in front of you today, there's a few things that I'm asking for approval. So firstly, I want you to note the performance of the housing management and temp accommodation. And secondly, I want you to approve a few recommendations that I'm suggesting. So in terms of performance, as you will remember, before COVID hit, we adopted the Homeless Action Plan, which was the result of our new duties under the Housing Reduction Act. And the focus of the Housing Reduction Act has always been to prevent homelessness. And we as a service were doing very well, despite all the additional burdens placed by the Housing Reduction Act. And I'm pleased to say that before COVID, the performance of the service was excellent. So, for example, I give you an example of the fact that we were very successful in reducing people in temporary accommodation. I think back in 2015-16, we had a huge number of people in temporary accommodation, and obviously the cost of that is very high. And we were able to reduce that from about 3.7 million to 1.3, and that was really due to our focus on preventing people being homeless where possible. You'll also see in the report the fact that Hounslow it does very well in terms of managing homelessness compared to some of its neighbouring boroughs. So I think it's important that we note the good work that we've done in terms of preventing homelessness, and I think that shouldn't be understated. Following COVID, obviously, we've it's a different story. We've had huge pressures on the service. In fact, there's been an unprecedented demand on housing. We've had, for example, calls to the centre have risen from about 500 to 2,000 people just making inquiries around homelessness. We've had the number of people becoming homeless has increased. So, for example, COVID exposed quite a lot of hidden homelessness. So, for example, you might be somebody that was sofa surfing, and as a result, you weren't able to do that as a result of COVID. So you then are faced with homelessness. We've also had a lot of inquiries from people who are worried about being evicted. I know there's a ban on evictions, but at the moment, and hopefully over Christmas as well, but that does mean that there's a lot of people in private rented accommodation that could be losing their homes moving forward. And I think we're estimated that in terms of pent-up demand, there's probably around 400 people that could be losing their homes once the eviction ban is lifted. So I'm pleased to report that we've obviously done very well in terms of helping everybody following COVID. I want to actually record a note of thanks to everybody in the housing team, because as you know, housing is a frontline service, and they were very quickly able to adapt their services really quickly to meet the needs of people, particularly helping rough homeless as well. So in terms of the recommendations that I want you to propose, there are a couple of adjustments that I want to make to our housing allocations policy. The first is that at the moment, if you are earning over 25k in the borough, you are not allowed to join. You're not eligible to join the housing register, which means that you are not eligible for some properties. Now that doesn't help us as a borough in terms of meeting our housing needs. So what I'm proposing is that we change that threshold to 30k, so that anybody who is for example earning 27k is allowed to join the housing register. That will really help us in terms to meet the needs of overcrowding. The second recommendation that I'd like to propose is that as part of being compliant with the new GLA regulations, I would like to recommend that all new homes that we are building are let at council rent, so that we are compliant with the changes in accordance with GLA. And of course, I'm sure you will agree that that will help us a lot, again, with supporting families who may not be able to afford the rent. And the third recommendation in terms of policy is that, as you know, that in 2013 we introduced flexible tenancies, and the aim was to review these tenancies after a period of 5 years. This has proved to be a little bit difficult. It's also in contradiction to a Homelessness Reduction Act. So what I'm proposing is that we go out to consult to end that that particular clause. We will still continue with a probationary introductory tenancy period for a year in cases where a tenant is not able to, for some reason, is not sticking to their tenancy conditions. So I'm sorry that's taken a while, but just wanted to, hopefully you're happy with the proposals, note the performance of the team, and hopefully happy to adopt the minor amendments in terms of policy. So sorry, I've rattled through that very quickly, but I'd like to move the report and the recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Bath. I'd like to second the report, but just highlight the tremendous work that as you've already done, highlight the tremendous work the housing team have done during the COVID. The pressures on housing officers, individuals, to ensure that everyone, where possible, was off the streets during COVID in the first wave was immense. Everyone that needed a bed and a roof over the head was given one. And some people found that very difficult. If you've lived on the streets for a long time, being in a hotel room, it will be quite alien to you. So some of our rough sleepers and homeless found that very difficult, but the team kept on supporting those people, and I'm glad to say that majority of those people that seek support were given support. And so a big thank you to all of the staff in those teams who worked tirelessly during the most difficult of circumstances to ensure everyone had a roof over their head. So I've seconded the report. I've got Councillor Rajawat, then got everyone's name for a second, then Councillor Lambert, how could I do apologise, and Councillor Khan. So Councillor Rajawat.
Thank you very much, Leader. And just to echo your words a second ago, Councillor Bath, congratulations to you and the team there. You've done a fantastic job looking at some of those figures when we first came back into power in 2014 and now. It's a night and day difference, and I really want to commend you for pushing the idea of council rent and how important that will be to local residents in affording their rents. And I suppose I would just point out, I'm sure you and I know we've had many a conversation about this, government really does need to step in to a certain degree as well, especially around things like the benefit cap that could, impact on families' ability to pay rent and sustain tenancies. So we need that sort of final bit of the jigsaw in terms of the government to step in and really do something rather than burying their heads in the sand. But well done to you and the team there.
Councillor Rajwa, you're normally spot on numbers, but you made a slight mistake there. It was 2010 we came back into power, not 2014, but I forgive you. I forgive you.
It's been a long...
I've got Councillor Lambert and then Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to speak up very briefly for Investment 360. Investment 360 have not gone into buying warehouses and shopping centres, but we have bought 157 flats and homes for people to go into who were previously in short-term accommodation. That they are now in essentially council-owned accommodation. The company's trading profitably and providing a bit of a margin to the council as well on the loans. So I just wanted to, there's a bit of a secret that, and it's a very positive thing that Investment 360 has done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Another example of the council investing wisely. Thanks to Councillor Rajawat and others. Councillor Khan.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yeah, you are definitely right. We are in power since 2010, but I think there was only the smallest of the smallest moments in our history when we weren't in power. So just to reiterate that point, so Labour has been here ever since I can remember. So lucky for that as well. So look, I just want to say thank you as well, and I really welcome that increase in that threshold, Lily. I think it's really important that we've taken that step, because just a small note that our families are growing, many are living in overcrowded accommodation, and this then will allow them to move out and actually get a larger property for the families to move into, which I think is a fantastic step. And always, having people who are homeless is kind of like a bit of a blight on society, because they seem to be the lowest part of society when that they've been left that they're homeless. But actually we're lucky we're not done that, and I implore what the leader said, that during COVID we never had any situation, everyone had a roof over their head. So it's really important. So I just wanted to make that point, Lily. I think it's a fantastic step and I'll be supporting this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. So we're asked to note and approve recommendations on page 196 and 197. if you could indicate if you've got any further questions or you are against those notes and recommendations. If not, if you could put your camera on if you're against. Got any further questions? No, no one's coming up, so that is unanimously passed. Thank you very much, everyone. So we now move on to agenda item 10, which is Councillor Gurwal. Over to you.
Thank you, Leader. This report details Council's performance in the second quarter of 2020-21 and the ongoing impact of the second full quarter of the COVID-19 pandemic. It also reflects performance following the first lockdown. This is now the sixth quarterly performance that continues to support an outcome-based accountability approach to the performance management, focuses on the impact of the Council's work rather than the processes. The Borough Recovery Plan, agreed by Cabinet in October this year, set out a number of areas of focus for the Borough as we respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. These areas of focus, alongside other new priorities, will inform the development of a new corporate plan in early 2021 and associated performance measures, which will be in place for the new financial year. Appendix 1 shows a detailed breakdown by corporate plan. A recommendation is on page 213 is to be noted, and I move the report. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks very much, Pritam. I'm more than happy to second the report. It's one of the reports that we receive regularly. Doesn't create much excitement sometimes, but I'm delighted that it's going from strength to strength. It's certainly more important now than ever that we measure our performance during the COVID period and post-COVID. So that's really good news to hear that the report and the way we manage performance is evolving. And I would like to thank Councillor Gurwal and his team, particularly Paul Probert, Head of Policy and Scrutiny and Intelligence, and the staff who work there, who do a great job for us, providing the information we need to help us make good decisions. That's sometimes tough in this environment, but a big thanks to them for all the work they do behind the scenes. Does any other councillor like to say anything? No, so I've seconded the report. Anyone got any further questions or is against? If you could put your camera on if you are. No one's against, so that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. We now move on to agenda item 11, which is the Council Tax Support Scheme. Councillor Rajawat.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yes, in moving this report, I'm asking Cabinet for authority to go out and consult on the scheme. Cabinet will be aware that our council tax scheme is something that we are incredibly proud of. It's something that we pay for ourselves, and it helps the most vulnerable in our communities. We've found over the last couple of years, with the introduction of universal credit, that an increased number of residents are on universal credit, and so it's a good opportunity to review the scheme in light of that. The changes that we're proposing, as laid out in the report, make the scheme more fair, more transparent, and far easier to understand. And within that, we're proposing to introduce a banding scheme, and you'll see that there are two options that will go out for consultation. Just to reassure Cabinet, both of those schemes still ensure that the most vulnerable get up to 100% support. One is slightly more generous than the other, but the fairness and transparency here is that should someone have small changes in their circumstances, they don't need to continuously write in and wait for a reassessment of their benefit and entitlement. If it falls within the banding, it just carries on. As I said, those who are most vulnerable will continue to receive 100% of their entitlement, and pensioners and those who have other benefits will not feel the changes that we're proposing here. We're also seeking to consult on changes on the disregards that we offer for earnings, as well as disregards on non-dependents, and standardising both of those. So with that, I move the report and ask for Cabinet's authority to go out and consult.
Thank you very much, Councillor Raja. I'm more than happy to second the report. We haven't reviewed our council tax support scheme formally for some time, a few years now, so now's the right time to do it. I think, as I've said earlier in the meeting, the government allowing us, inverted commas, to put up council tax to 5% without a referendum is shameful. They should fund us fully for all of our costs for dealing with the pandemic. And let's not forget that austerity hadn't ended. It hadn't ended at all, and we were still dealing with that. So many boroughs are on the brink, and some have succumbed because of the pressures already right up and down the country. I think, as I said before, we're a very prudent council. We only spend money when we need to spend it, and we only collect council tax when we need to collect it. And I can assure all of our residents and businesses who may be listening, that position hasn't changed. But that said, we have to produce a balanced budget, and we need to move forward post-COVID to ensure that we invest in the areas we need to invest in, protecting the most vulnerable, protecting the elderly and the young, and we will continue to do that. So I'm pleased that we're going to, if approved, go out to consult on the very generous council tax support scheme. And I think if we do accept the recommendations after the consultation, we can target the most vulnerable people in our society, and that's got to be a good thing. Councillor Bath.
Oh, thank you, Leader. Sorry, I just frozen for a minute. Apologies if I get cut off. I just wanted to say very quickly, I wanted to thank the Cabinet member for bringing this forward and going out to consultation. I know that he's done an awful lot of work in terms of consulting with members, and there's been an awful lot of feedback and discussion around the topic of council tax reduction. I mean, I'm absolutely in favour of anything that simplifies the system. I know currently those that are on universal credit have to send reams and reams of paperwork in if there is a change in their circumstances, and I think that is not good for any resident, not given the times that we live in. And so anything that we can do to simplify the process is a really good thing, because not only is it helpful for the person that is receiving the council tax reduction, but it's also helpful for us as a council in terms of the administrative costs, no doubt, that we would be, which would be, you know, we would be liable to pay. So I welcome this, and I look forward to hearing the consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Anyone else want to say anything? Right. Any other councillors? Questions? No. I'm assuming everyone is in favour of the report. If you've got any further questions or you're against, please can you put your camera on? If not, I'm assuming that this is a unanimous vote in favour of the recommendations on page 229. Yep, that's it. Okay, that's unanimously approved. Thank you very much. We're now coming to the end of the meeting, and we're on agenda item 12, which is again a report from myself. So I would like to move the report. I'm always happy moving a report where we're spending money for our residents, for the benefit of our residents and businesses. And I just did a quick sum. I'm not very good at maths, but you can see it's nearly over £15 million that we're going to be ploughing back into the local economy in Hounslow over the next couple of years, and that's the direct result of SIL on 106 agreement. So I know sometimes it's controversial when the planning committee approves developments, but we've got a manifesto commitment to build homes, to build council homes, to build the homes and the communities that our residents deserve and want. And when we do that, we need to also improve infrastructure and facilities for our residents and businesses. So I'm very pleased to recommend this report to you. I should add some caution that if some of the recommendations in the white paper with regard to planning changes will affect our ability to collect SIL, which I think will be not only some of the planning changes will be a detriment to our communities and how they engage with the planning authority, but also it will affect our balance sheet and we will not be able to put the money we would like to put in to mitigate developments in the borough. So with that caution, I'm delighted to move the report. Councillor Bath.
Thank you, Leader. I'm delighted to second the report. Like yourself, I'm always really delighted when we are ploughing back money into the community to improve infrastructure. So I'm delighted with this.
Thank you, Councillor Bath. Councillor Khan.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yeah, I think this is a wonderful report, and it does highlight, and me for one, from the west area of the borough, there's so many schemes in there which where we're receiving so much money for us to improve our area, and it's wonderful to see that right away from the major schemes in Feltham to the Feltham Arena parkland as well. And also you've seen some wonderful stuff being done at Feltham Bridge House Pond, and actually the area itself is moving in a wonderful direction to make it kind of fit for the 21st century. So these things are great, especially when we look at how the SIL can be spent in so many other areas to help our vulnerable. So it's about levelling up, which I think is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. I wouldn't normally take a comment from the Prime Minister about levelling up, but I think it's fair to say that this report helps us with the levelling up agenda. There's been huge development in Brentford and Isleworth, as we know, over many years, and now it's Feltham and Heston's turn, if we use a constituency geography. So it's important that whole part, the west of the borough, sees some of the benefit for all of the development that will go on over the next years and months and years ahead. And I'm glad you mentioned Feltham Pond, which has seen a massive investment over the last 15 months, and it's made a real difference. If anyone's not been to Feltham recently, they got a new cycle lane as well, right through the high street. So I would recommend it and go and have a look. It's really made, I think, a big improvement to Feltham and the surrounding areas. So I'm delighted, as I say, to move this report. So we're asked to note and approve on page 60 and page 61. Any further comments or no? Any objections? No, that's again unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone. We now move on to any urgent business. I've not been notified of any urgent business. Then finally, date of next meeting. We're rushing into the new year, so the next cabinet meeting will be on the 19th of January 2021. And I suppose, as it's the last cabinet meeting before Christmas, I have to wish you all a Merry Christmas. A big thanks to all the officers behind the scenes who supported this cabinet meeting tonight virtually, and especially to the IT team and member services. So thank you very much. Oh, and of course the legal advice, which is always well received. Thank you for that. And I'll see you in the new year. Merry Christmas.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye, team.
Thank you.